I'm willing to bet you weren't expecting a Minecraft video. This is Solomon's Temple and a couple of other buildings as described in the Bible built in Minecraft. And I thought I might as well show it off for you guys just because, I don't know, I just thought that would be cool. So let's take a look at this thing. So this is the temple over here. You can see the altar and you can see a couple other mercantile areas and whatnot. But over here is where I actually want to start. At the Palace of Solomon. This is actually a really important building as it connects to the temple, and I kind of want to tell the story of the building as we kind of look through it. So, the story of this actually starts with the reign of King David, Solomon's father. King David was told by God that he could not build the temple. David wanted to build a temple for God, and for many reasons God said no. But God did not tell him that he couldn't collect resources for the temple. And so that's what he did. He spent the latter part of his reign just collecting stone and wood and gold and silver and all of that stuff, all to build a special temple for the Lord. But he ended up gathering so much that there was enough left over to build a really nice palace for the king. And so even though David had already built himself a palace, Solomon also built a palace kind of right next to the temple out of a lot of the same kind of building materials. And so I've kind of decorated as I, thought might be cool with, some menorahs and whatnot here and there. And there's the gardens out the back. And then another cool structure a part of this palace is this here. This is supposed to be the house that Solomon built for the daughter of Pharaoh. So Solomon had a lot of wives, but there was one particularly special wife, and that was the daughter of Pharaoh. And he built her a special house that he didn't offer that privilege of any of his other wives or concubines, but he built a special house for her. So I kind of tried to make it look a little bit more Egyptian in style than everything else. I don't know. I did my best. These are kind of all the rooms where the many wives would have been housed and whatnot. And here's the rooms where they can chill out. And these paintings are lore accurate. They 100% had pictures of creepers and whatever this is in ancient Israel. So that's 100% accurate. But anyway, so that's the Palace of Solomon. And over here is a courthouse. There would have been another courthouse a little bit over that ways for just the king, because basically in the theocracy of Israel, the king functioned as the highest judge in the judicial system. That was one of his chief offices, was basically to be the final judge when cases were brought between tribes. That's a thing. So we get here to the temple itself. This is kind of one of the outer walls, and then there's a wall around here, and then there would have been a city wall. So there would have been at least 3 layers of protection before you could actually get into the temple itself. And outside the temple, there would have been a place to buy animals. So here you can buy your cows from the butcher here. You can buy your sheep from the shepherd here and whatnot. And you can also buy, get out of the way, sir, sheaf offerings. And you can buy, get out of the way, sir, loaf offerings. As you can see, here's our loaf offerings. Here's our sheaf offerings. I have another star? How long have I had another star? Wow. Oh, anyway. Sorry, don't mind me. I think there's a common conception that a common misconception that selling animals would have been unique to the second temple, that Jesus opposed selling animals at the temple. That's not really true. He had different contentions to bring up. It had to do with more of the heart of the people and they're fleeing to God for refuge, even though they were rather pagan at heart. That was really the big issue there. But as we kind of ascend the steps into the temple proper, the temple is the tippy-toppest part of Mount Zion. It would have been built at basically the highest point. And it was built on basically a gigantic slab of rock that used to be a threshing floor where they would separate wheat from chaff. And the rock is still there. It's not like the rock is gone anywhere, but there's been a couple of temples built on top of it, so it's not like we can go and touch that rock today, but it hasn't moved. And David actually bought that plot of land from the landowner to be a spot to do sacrifices, and then that spot was picked to build the temple. So in the temple courtyard, you have two big main attractions here. The first attraction is the altar, which I'm standing on right now. There would have been a big old grate where you put the animal and just roast them, and that probably allowed for multiple sacrifices to be going on at the same time, because when you got a really, really big country that's constantly offering sacrifices, and these descriptions about offering, 1,000 bulls on the same day, you need a big grate, probably much bigger than this, to be able to really pull that off. And then the other big attraction here is the bronze basin. And these are supposed to be bulls, B-U-L-L-S. There would have been 12 of them, supporting this big bronze basin. Everything about the temple was supposed to be basically an upgrade from the tabernacle. So in the tabernacle setup, you had a bronze basin, but it was small. It would have been about the size of these basins over here, that you could do your ritual washings in and whatnot. But in the temple, they made a gigantic big basin, and that made it basically not be able to function as a hand washing station, so they treated it as a water storage tank basically, and then they would haul that water to these smaller basins where they would actually do their ritual washing. One thing I kind of regret doing is putting the basin off to the side. I kind of wish I had put it altar, basin, temple, because I think that's actually how they would have, at least how Solomon had it. But I saw some pictures of it being off to the side, so that's why I did it. I kind of regret that, but I also don't regret it, because even the placement of the altar really varies quite a bit depending upon what time in history we're talking about. I mean, it would have been here during the reign of Solomon, but there was a time when they took this whole altar and moved it over there and replaced it with an altar to a different god. So they were literally like offering sacrifices to a different god in the sanctuary, and God's altar was shoved off to the side. So these things probably would have been subject to be moved from time to time. So it's not necessarily wrong, but the what is probably most likely the intended placement, sacrifice, a basin, temple, really is Christological kind of in its foreshadowing, because you have the atonement of Christ, then you have baptism, and then you can enter the church. So that's kind of the idea there. So one of the reasons we know that the depictions of Solomon's temple in the Bible are legit is that it matches the depictions of temples built at similar times in history. So a lot of other temples at this time period, they had these big bronze pillars right out the front. And I don't remember exactly what they were supposed to symbolize in the pagan cultures. I don't know what Solomon was thinking when he built them, but the point is he did give them names, because why not? The north one was called Boaz, and the south one was called Yakin, and the whole thing does face east. You can't tell because there's a moon, but you get the idea. And then this area right here is called the portico, and this is, where, priests could stand and talk and address people and whatnot. And I kind of expanded it a little bit, just again because of the pictures I was seeing. And then we get to the door here. There's no veil in Solomon's temple like there is in the tabernacle. Instead, you have doors, and on the doors you have pictures of cherubim, open flowers, and palm trees. So I don't quite have those, so I did totems of undying sunflowers and some saplings. So on the inside, the Bible says that it was covered floor to ceiling with gold. So that's what I've done here. And everywhere there was depictions of open flowers, palm trees. So I got some trees here, kind of tree of life imagery as well, and open flowers. So we've got, I think I already said that, palm trees, open flowers. Oh, and cherubim. Sorry, that was the one I forgot. And so these were kind of my attempt at making little angels. You probably can't see it. I don't know. I did my best. But yeah, and then inside the temple, they would have had 10 menorahs instead of just one like they had in the tabernacle. And it was really hard for me to figure out whether or not there would have been just one table for the bread of the presence or one for each candlestick. I just ended up putting 10 just because I thought it looked nice. Again, it's kind of hard to figure out if they upped the amount of bread of the presence that they made during the tabernacle period, or during the temple period. I really don't know. But there would have been also some side rooms for extra storage. A lot of stuff was stored in the temple. And this is the altar of incense, which was used for exactly what you would expect. They offered incense on it, and it went up. And then they would take the incense. The high priest once a year would take the incense into this area. There are way too many people in here. You should all be dead. These are my priests who are apparently breaking God's law. It's fine. And this is the Holy of Holies, and this is the Ark of the Covenant, and they would take the incense in here. So this would have been pretty consistently a dark, smoky room. And on the other side of the Ark of the Covenant, there was two big statues of cherubim. Couldn't really do that intricate, so I just kind of made two little arches just to kind of get the general point across. And so yeah, that's the Holy of Holies. And the door into the Holy of Holies was decorated the same way: cherubim, open flowers, and palm trees. But we're not done, because the temple was for worship, but it was also a place of learning, and for copying the Bible, and for all sorts of things. So you would have had these side rooms to the side of the temple. And Solomon made a big point of how these were made. So basically we're walking on these wooden floors, and that's very intentional. The wooden floors were basically set on top of the stone. And that means that every layer was slightly bigger. As we go up, every layer was slightly wider than the last. You see, that's a little bit wider. And that's the widest, right? They would have gotten wider as they went up. And Solomon's whole shtick was he did not want any carving of stone to happen on site. All of the carving of stone had to happen on site. There was no drilling of stone that happened at the build site. And there's probably a lot of reasons for that. Ow. Well, hello. You're not supposed to be here. So I made it have roof access here. I don't know exactly how accurate that was, but it would make sense that they would need roof access so they could, do the maintenance that they needed to do. And so that's basically kind of how that works. And again, kind of walls around everything. There would have been guard towers for them to, guard from, maybe play their trumpets from, and do whatever they needed to do. And then kind of pretty sad what I have here, but there would have been a really cool gate there. And that's basically the long and short of it. So I don't know if this kind of helped you visualize what the Bible talks about when it's talking about the temple and the palace and whatnot, then awesome. But anyway, I hope you found this video fun. Thanks for watching, and God bless.